300 years ago, Paris was nothing like a dream. It was loud, crowded, unpredictable. People worried about bread, about work, about surviving another day. And yet, within this chaos, a quiet revolution was beginning to grow. Most cities are born from geography. Paris was born from power. Imagine a city without the Eiffel Tower. No grand boulevards, no glittering lights along the Seine. Instead, picture narrow medieval streets, packed tight with timber houses leaning over muddy roads. The smell of river water mixed with smoke from coal fires. Church bells echoing through damp morning air. In the 1700s, Paris was not yet the romantic postcard of today. It was a city of nearly 600,000 people, the beating political and intellectual heart of Europe. To understand modern Paris, we must return to its volatile foundations, where monarchy, revolution, faith, and philosophy collided to reshape the world. In the 18th century, information was power. And nowhere did it circulate faster than the cafes of Paris. At Café Procope, founded in 1686, the air was thick with candle smoke and radical ideas. This wasn't just a place to drink coffee, it was the unofficial headquarters of the Enlightenment. Writers, lawyers, and revolutionaries gathered beneath crystal chandeliers to debate liberty, reason, and the rights of man. Figures like Voltaire and Jean-Jacques Rousseau argued that kings ruled not by divine right, but by the will of the people. Words spoken in these dim rooms would eventually ignite a revolution that shook every throne in Europe. Before revolution came royalty. Dominating the political landscape stood the Palace of Versailles, gold-lined halls, endless mirrors, manicured gardens stretching to the horizon. It was not just a palace, it was a machine of control. Nobles were kept close, distracted by ceremony and spectacle, while real power concentrated in royal hands. But by the late 1700s, the glitter was cracking. France was drowning in debt. Harvests were failing. Bread prices soared in Paris. But revolutions are not born in palaces. They are born in hunger. A woman stands in line before dawn, clutching a few coins in her frozen hand. Bread prices have doubled. Behind her, a child coughs. Ahead of her, the bakery door may close before her turn arrives. A cobbler watches soldiers march past his shop. He does not speak politics, he speaks survival. And a young royal guard posted near the palace gates grips his musket tighter than necessary. He hears the crowd chanting in the distance. He knows the king, he knows his oath, but he also knows his own family struggles to afford bread. Paris was dividing, not just between rich and poor, but inside every human heart. And in the center of the city stood a fortress that symbolized absolute authority, the Bastille. Morning, July 14th, 1789. Gunpowder smoke hung low over the rooftops. Crowds surged through narrow streets, carrying muskets, axes, and stolen cannon. Some were craftsmen, some were laborers, some were simply hungry. Inside the fortress walls, royal soldiers stood tense behind stone battlements. They were not monsters, they were men, sweating, afraid, outnumbered. Negotiations failed. The first shots rang out. Stone splintered. Smoke swallowed the courtyard. Cannon fire thundered against medieval walls that had stood for centuries. Hours passed in chaos. Bodies fell on both sides. The governor hesitated, then surrendered. By sunset, the Bastille was no longer a prison. It was rubble. Its stones were torn apart by citizens and sold as souvenirs of defiance. The fall of the Bastille did not free many prisoners. It freed an idea. Meanwhile, faith still anchored the skyline. The towers of Notre Dame rose above the crowded Ile de la Cité. Kings Kings married beneath its vaulted ceilings. Te Deums echoed through its nave. Yet even this sacred monument could not escape the storm. During the Revolution, statues were smashed, treasures looted. The cathedral was repurposed into a temple of reason. Paris was not just changing rulers, it was redefining belief itself. Then came the first great climax. In 1793, Louis XVI was led to the scaffold. For the first time in European history, a king was publicly judged by his own people. The blade fell. Centuries of divine monarchy ended in seconds. The old world had fallen. But revolutions, once unleashed, rarely stop where they begin. The blade did not rest. Under the banner of virtue and purity, suspicion spread like wildfire. Neighbors accused neighbors. Loyalty was questioned. Fear replaced hope. The guillotine worked daily. This was the reign of terror. What began as a cry for liberty turned into a machine of paranoia. The revolution was no longer fighting a monarchy. It was fighting itself. That was the second climax. In destroying a throne, Paris had unleashed something far more unpredictable. Power did not disappear. It changed hands, and sometimes the new hands were just as ruthless as the old. Paris learned a brutal truth. It is easier to destroy a system than to build a better one. Beyond the blood and the politics, daily life remained harsh. Cramped stone buildings, unpaved streets, waste flowing openly, disease lingering in stagnant water, the Seine serving as both lifeline and sewer. Markets roared with sound, fishmongers shouting, carts rattling, coins clinking, goods from colonies mixed with harvests from the countryside. Paris was already global, already restless. Intellectual fire burned just as fiercely as political rage. The Encyclopédie project sought to gather all human knowledge into one massive work. The idea was radical. Knowledge should not belong only to kings and clergy. It should belong to everyone. That idea was more dangerous than any cannon. The 18th century forged Paris into more than a royal seat. It became the capital of ideas, the birthplace of modern citizenship, the laboratory of revolution. The grand boulevards would come later. The monuments would change. The skyline would evolve. But the heartbeat of Paris, its defiance, its intellect, its obsession with liberty, was born in those narrow, smoky streets. The lights are modern. The ambition is centuries old. But here is the question history still whispers. Did the French Revolution truly create freedom, or did it simply replace one form of power with another? Paris changed the world, but at what cost?